So, welcome everybody who just joined. We're just waiting for a few seconds so that most of you who want to join can join. See some of you joining. Welcome. So I think those of us who wanted to join are here, and everybody who's joining at a later stage, well, they'll just have to join a little bit later, maybe have less of an explanation. Welcome to today's session, A Cup of Tableau, which is just a short break in the afternoon where I'll be talking about a little bit of Tableau. Just for your information, we are recording these sessions, so this will be up on YouTube, just so you are aware that uh, things will be recorded. If you have a question, you can use the Q&A. If you cannot find the Q&A, you can also use chat. I will keep my eye on that. Uh, what we want to talk about today is about table calculations and about the definitions of direction and scope. What are they and why should I care about direction and scope? And I will give you and show you exactly how that works with using different directions or using different scopes. Um, my name is Dan. I want to welcome you all to Cup of Tableau. I am one of the consultants at the Information Lab, hosting these sessions. Just as I said before, 15 minutes, maybe a little bit less, informal information sharing about Tableau and some basic concepts. Those of you who have joined before, welcome back. I can see a few of you. Uh, Good that you're back and you know about these sessions. Those of you who are new, it will be just a short session with some basic concepts. As I said, we're going to talk about table calculations and we're going to talk about direction and scope. Now, we have a few things when we're talking about direction and scope. And one important thing when we are talking about table calculations, um, table calculations are always based on whatever we see in our visualization. So, whatever is in our view. Now, when looking at our view, and I will make it a little bit more clear when we're going into Tableau itself to show you exactly the impact. But when we're talking about the different directions, the most important directions are across and down. So when you have those table calculations, they can either happen from left to right, which will be across, or top to bottom, which is down. Those are the main directions that exist. So show you that in Tableau as well. What does that across mean? But just to give you a little bit of visual representation, across is the arrow from left to right, and down is top to bottom. And then we have scope. And scoping is very much similar to when we are, for instance, scoping a project, or you can sort of see it as if you have a periscope, you're actually zooming in on a different particular part of your view, your vision, and the scope can be the entire table. That means everything that we see. The scope can also be the pane, which is the next to last level, or it can be the cell, which is the lowest level where our um, headers from our rows and the headers of our columns cross. So just to give you a bit of an idea, table is the entirety, pane is the next to lowest level, and cell is our lowest level. So those are those different scopes, and we're going to go more detail in Tableau in a bit. One more thing when we're talking about those directions, the directions can be combined. So we can do both across and down. What do I mean by that? If we go across then down, that means we go first left to right, and then on to the next row, again left to right. The same can be said from down to across. We can go first down our visualization, go back up, and then go down again. First, let's have a look at the different directions across and down using an actual visualization and actual table in Tableau. As you can see, I built a tab in Tableau just to make sure that you're aware of this. If we are using a table calculations, two things. One, we have the visual cue of that little delta symbol always there. And table calculation doesn't mean we have to build a table to use. We can build them and use them in graphs. But for this convenience, I am using a table just to show you that particular uh, concept of direction and the concept of scope. Now I have here a particular internal calculation called index. Let me show you what does index look like. It is simply this view index. And what does index do? It actually gives me a, let me give you that, returns the index of the current row in the partition. So I am in part one, part two, and part three of my row. Now, when we're looking at a table calculation, we have this certain compute using, and here we can see those different scopes, as you can see, but also those different um, directions. We can go across, or we can do down. Now, when we see across, remember, we're going left to right, and we can see that that index is counting upwards, going from left to right. We're starting with 1, and we're ending at 12. Now, let's see what happens when we're changing the direction from instead of across to down. You can see that my whole top row becomes 1, and my index, which is looking at, okay, what part are you in my rows or columns? In this case, it's going downwards. So it's counting 1, 2, 3, 4. It's going counting upwards, going down. So you can see that was as easy as compute using table across. And we can see again, it's going from left to right, counting upwards. If you go to edit table calculation, you can always, you have the same thing, but you have that calculation assistance showing you exactly highlighted where we're doing that table calculation and what way we're doing it. A little bit of a sort of reminder for ourselves. If we're a little bit unsure, what does that mean exactly, across or down? We can see exactly that it's happening. Down means top to. We also see the combination across and then down. Now take a good look at these numbers. 1, 2, 3 going upwards. It goes across means it first goes from left to right. And as you can see, I go left to right. 1, 2, 3, 4. Go up to 12. And then in the next row, it starts with 13 again, counting upwards again, 14, 15, etc., etc. As you can see, it's creating this sort of zigzag symbol. Now we also have table down, then across. And then you can see it first, we're counting downwards. 1, 2, 3, 4. Downwards to 16. And at the next row, we're counting upwards again from 16 to 17, 18, 19, 20, etc., etc. So that means down, then across, creating more an N-like um method. Now, aside from those directions, which I showed you was across and down, or in this case also across, then down, down, then across, we also have different scopes. Table, the entirety, pane, next to last level, and cell, the last level. What will that look like? I'll use pane across, so I'll keep it across going from left to right, but with the pane, which is the next to last level, and the next to last level in this case is the year. So it's not the entirety of the table. And we can actually see, let's move this real quick so it's a little bit clearer. After each quarter, it counts back from 1 again. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4. And then I start over my table calculation. That's actually what we mean when we're talking about the scope. How often are we restarting? if I choose pane downwards, you can see I'm getting 1 to 4 because we have 1, 2, 3, 4 rows of information. Counting back with the 1, 1, 2, 3, and then we're going up to 9 because office supplies has 9 different subcategories. So this is using pane, that's our scope, and our direction is downwards. Now we can also do pane across and down, so we're combining using both a pane and going both across and then down, and you can actually see how many rows of data do you get. I'm just going once, right click, and if we compute using the cell, I'm only getting once. I'm telling Tableau to restart at every cross section of subcategory and quarter. So that's 1, 1, 1, over and over again. So we have our cross left to right, or down, top to bottom. We can combine those across, then down, down, then across. We can choose to compute for the table, the pane, or the cell. And if I edit my table calculation once more, just to show you, if we go pane across, we can see it's going left to right. Indeed, that's across, and it only calculates and starts again. Uh, Ilona, I did see your question, and I will answer that. And then we also have pane down or cell, and you can actually see it's highlighting that particular cell. Now, Ilona is asking a very correctly question. What would be the use of using cell as a table calculation? I will quickly show you that. We will need a little bit more time than the 15 minutes that we have for this particular case, but I ask you to hang on if you want to know the exact what it means for a cell. Why would we calculate that? Because as I said, it has to do with cross-referencing of our column and row headers, but we can split our column and row headers with another discrete dimension without it being in the columns or our rows. What does that look like? We'll quickly build something, calculated field, which is a classic one. Uh, and those of you who were in the last session will see that using a sort of logic statement calculating the profit on a transaction basis on a row level, is my profit bigger than 0? So what I'm looking at in Superstore is my transaction for my product, is that profitable? I'll actually build the same overview. What I will do quickly, instead of actually just duplicate this, because I'll do cell level table calc, so we know what we're doing. I'll remove that index, and what we can do, and I'll just build instance based on sale. Oh, we have a text table. I want a bar graph. So we have all of these bar charts, as you can see, and I can split them based on whether the transaction was profitable. So I can put that on color, and we have different colors. We change the color so that true is, for instance, gray, and false is that orange color. This is a typical version that Tableau uses a lot during the trainings. I will slice it up so we only have the year. So in this case, we can see the profitable transactions for book cases in 2017. What I can do, I can create a table calculation. For instance, percent of total. I'll need to change compute using. And if I, for instance, change the compute using to cell, what we're seeing, and I'll just quickly make a copy of that sum of sales. We can quickly calculate at the cell level, and the cell level, remember, that was where our headers are crossing, but my cell level is still, my cell is actually split further using only that calculation for profitability being trend on the transaction level being profitable, yes or no, my transaction being profitable, yes or no. So my table calculation is at the cell level, but because my cell level actually has a level deeper, but it's not in the view. It is in the view, but it's not in my columns or my rows. We can sort of use that 100% within the cell. Does that answer your question, Ilona? You are very welcome. So that is all the time we have for today. If you do have a question, I will stick around a little bit longer to answer your question. But that's it, what I wanted to tell you about direction and scope and how they influence your table calculation. When we're looking at what does across mean, what does down mean, and what's the difference between the table, the pane, and the cell level. And actually, indeed, as Ilona questioned, why would we even use cell? I hope you enjoyed these sessions. This will also be on our YouTube channel pretty soon, and I hope to see you in our next session. Our next session will be about how to create a partial drill down. So we'll be creating a parameter action and to use Tableau's own software. And instead of creating using hierarchies, we'll use a parameter to create a fake hierarchy. And the week after, on the 6th of April, last session for now, about a cup of Tableau, which is things I wish I knew when I started working with Tableau. Subscribe for these sessions so I know that you're around. And hopefully you'll drop in next week again at 3 o'clock for just a 50-minute short break and gaining some Tableau knowledge. For now, I wish you a very good afternoon and thank you for joining me.